so full of the reality of what he speaks. Sometimes we can say things and we don't yet live them. Anyone ever experienced that? Chris lives what he speaks. Who he is who he shares, and the revelation God has given him. And that's just one of the favorite things that Ben and I really love about him. So, Chris, take it away. Harass these people. They look like they need it.
Okay. Good morning. Let's see if we remember from Monday, which was a long time ago, and the School of Ministry students were not here Monday. So, I know the black one doesn't work. What was that? It does? It works now? How cool is that? It's amazing the little things that can excite you in life. I hear that School of Ministry students are very inquisitive and ask a lot of questions. Is that true? This particular year, is that true? Okay, so I expect nothing less today. I taught, as I said to the group on Monday, I taught junior high for 7 years. Oh, sorry. It's coming back to me now. And so I was used to questions. The thing about junior high kids, though, is that sometimes they ask questions so that they can get you to deviate off your topic. And so they take bets to see who can make you go off topic. So knowing that, it never worked with them. But I love their questions nonetheless. Junior high questions are priceless. Every teacher should write down questions from 12, 13, and 14-year-olds, because you don't get those repeated again until the same person is about 75 or 80. All right. Anyway, let's see how we remember Monday. It works for a moment. All right. Monday group. Since these guys weren't here Monday, School of Ministry. Let me ask you, what do these two things stand for? Yes. Were you here Monday? I thought, cheater. A God cheater. There's God chasers, and then there's God cheaters. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Let's do this, because these other guys weren't here. So again, remember 6th grade math when you had bar graphs, and one was connected to another, and some of you are going, well, you did this Monday. You can do this every day and remind yourself this particular truth, and it probably won't be enough. So go ahead. What's the first one? Okay, his love for me. Okay, this is how I know it goes from this point here to that point here. And the second one is what? Okay, what was that over here? Someone said what? Love for him. Okay. For him. Now, here we go. Now remember, 1 John 4:19 says what? Monday. Say it again. We love him because he first loved us. School of Ministry guys. How long have you been in school? 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 2 months. Too long? No. How many times have you heard the expression or something along the lines of how God loves you? Has it been more than 3? Okay. It should be about 3,000. There's one of the funny things is that, and I don't care if you're your age, or you're my age, or somebody else's age. No. I went into my 10-year class reunion, walked in the door, and there were 3 different pods of people. It's really funny. 10 years had passed, no one had seen each other, and they were gathered in the same little cliques again. It was hilarious. This group over here, I knew everybody. I was from a town of 4,000 people, so my class had 70 people in my class. So everyone knew everyone. And so I walked in the door, and there's a group over here. I didn't really hang around with them, but we all knew them. And so they looked up, because every time the door would open, everyone would look. And so I walked through, and I was married, had my wife with me. And they looked over, and they went, "Hey, Dupre." I went, "Bye, guys." And then as the door swung wider, there was a group right over here that knew me well, and we were a little closer. "Hey, Dupre, good to see you." Then, as the door swung wider, there were all my old buddies. And they just shout, "Dupre, get your butt over here." Now, when you walk into a room and you get, "Hey," or you get, "Get over here, I want to give you a hug," which way do you go? Walk towards the depressing group. "Hi, how are you?" "Fine, how are you?" "Good." "Still alive, I see." "Yes, it is." It's just, that's not where God's heart, he loves when we come to him. He loves, and so what he did was that he made it so that we're in his image. And so we love affection when affection comes our way. You were created. See, here's the thing that preachers miss sometimes. They tell you to love him, 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 but they don't tell you how to love him. So they rip up phone books in front of you in different, I've seen preachers that with muscles out to here, and they're ripping up phone books telling you that Jesus wants you to follow him just like I am and be a fighter in his kingdom. And I go, I can't rip the phone book from my hometown. It was this thick. I can't follow Jesus because I can't rip a phone book. And so they tell you to love him, to love him, to love him. But they don't really invite you to figure out how to love him. And suddenly 1 John 4:19 comes in. We love because, and that word "because" is more than just it's more than just a response. The Isaac Newton equal and opposite reaction. To every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. Well, it's kind of like that in a sense, but not really. It's not just a reaction. When I opened that door, my 10-year class reunion, and walked in, my heart was, and then boom. And I just walked over there, and we started hugging, and it was awesome. It was because you are created to respond to affection. So what happens is, let's go back. I walk into the room. Now this is you. This is you going back to, you walk into a room, and there's no real response. "Hey, how you doing?" "Hi." "Hi." "Just a second, I'll be right with you." Just got to check my Facebook. Okay. And so you're there going, now what does your heart do if you walk into a room like that? It what? It sinks a little. It just kind of go, oh. Because you don't, here's the thing. I want to free you of something. I pray the Lord frees you. I don't free you of anything. Truth sets us free. I pray something sets you free here this morning. You do not initiate love to God. It's been put on you to make sure you do your work, and part of your work is to love him more. We love because he first loved us. And again, we talked about this the other day, but I just had to go back over it. If the knowledge if the knowledge of my love, of his love for me, goes this far, my ability to love him can only go that far. It cannot go past. I love because means I love to the extent I know he loves me. That's what that verse means. Oh. I love to the extent that I know that I'm loved. So the knowledge of his affection for you is everything. Does that make sense? So you want to grow in love? Grow in how much he loves you. And then you will grow in how much you love him. It sounds selfish. I had this old lady come to me one time at the end of a service. I talked about this. I didn't do it with a whiteboard. I was preaching, and I was talking about the love of God. And she came up and she goes, I agree with most of what you said. And don't you love that introduction? You know. And when someone starts complimenting you right off the bat, you're always looking for the but. But, well, the whole thing about you were really pushing that we need to know how much God loves us. I said, yeah. She said, don't you think that's a little selfish? I said, what do you mean? She said, it's all about love me, God, love me, love me, love me, love me. She was doing this, this love me, you're doing this, love me, love me, love me. That's so selfish. I said, huh. So how do you plan to grow in love? Oh, well, what do you mean? He said, well, don't you want to grow in love? Or you just want to stay the same? I love God at 3 out of 10. And I am really good at 3. Would you like to be a 5 or 7? Do you want to grow in love? Well, yeah. Well, how do you grow in love? I don't understand what you mean. I said, that's probably the problem. You didn't. You have to understand affection. The more that comes in you, the more that you can grow. It takes God to love God. No human being on his own, devoid of God, suddenly just goes, Jesus Christ is the Son of God and I love him. You hear the stories of Muslims. One day they have this thing and they go, oh, it is Jesus. Well, it's because God initiated revelation. He gave them a dream. He gave them a vision. But no little baby can say, Jesus is the Son of God. Whoa. His first words were, I love Jesus because he's the Son of God. How old is he? 3 weeks. It doesn't initiate in humanity. Love is divinity. God doesn't do love. God is love. Therefore, all love, all aspects of love are initiated in God's heart. You get a drop of it, and then you can respond back in love because you're created in his image. So here you are coming to this little school for the week, or you're part of the school of ministry, and you're up against this little brick wall of, I want to grow in love, I want to grow in love, I want to grow in love. Therefore, and it passes well, then probably you just need to be a little more dedicated. What's your devotional life like? Well, I do all the stuff I'm supposed to do for school. Really? Is it in your heart to do it anyway? If you didn't have to do it, would you do it? Oh, no. Of course not. There's your problem. It's the motive. It's probably just that evil heart that God talks about in Zechariah. Yeah, it's evil. Yeah. But Ezekiel said, I will give you a new heart, and I will put my capital S, I will put my spirit within you. And that's for now. So I don't have an evil heart. I have his heart in me, because he says, I'll give you a new covenant. I'll give you a new heart. So that's not the issue. So the issue is, can I some way as a leader guilt you into convincing you don't love God enough so that you'll love him more? Is that the stupidest way to encourage people to love God? I'm going to encourage you this morning and show you how little you love God, so that your initial human response will be, well, then I'll love more. No, the initial human response is to walk away depressed. And then when prayer time comes with your small group later, I think I hate God. How can you hate God? You're here, you gave up. He convinced me. I hate him. And I'm okay with that, I guess. I just don't know. There's two ways to talk in the New Testament. I won't go down the other path, but there's two ways to talk about growing in love. One is 1 John 4:19. And the other is when this woman comes to Jesus and is overboard with affection. Just, weeping and her tears and drying his feet with her hair. He's like, whoa, what? The disciples, do you know who she is? What are you doing? And he makes this little statement. He who's forgiven much loves much. You want to grow in love? Grow in the knowledge of how you've been forgiven. Those two areas are the two major ways, and both have to do with the understanding of what God has done for us and who God is to us. It doesn't have to do with you striving more. It's like, oh my gosh, you have forgiven me for that. What would have happened if I hadn't been forgiven? Where would I have ended up? And let the Spirit of God take you on a little bunny trail sometime. It's just amazing. Wow. I want to love much, therefore I need to know how much I've been forgiven. Again, it's a revelation. It's the revelation of his affection for me. It's the revelation of his forgiveness for me. I want to grow as a lover. What is a worship school? What's a school of ministry? What is the whole idea? What do you want to come out with at the end of a school, whether it's a week or whether it's months? The degree will get me into any university. No. I can guarantee you, when you come out of here with this piece of paper, and down at the bottom, the Harrises have signed, and Sarah signed it, and everybody signed it, and you walk over, and you decide, you know what? Oxford. So you go to Oxford. You say, look at this. I went to School of Ministry, and the Harrises both signed it. Whoa, we're going to let you in. Pay your entire tuition. That's it. That's not what you're doing this for. You're setting aside time. And here's the thing. If you're setting aside time because you want, whether it's the week, you want a jolt to be able to go up to know a little bit more, to be more effective, that's okay. I think that's a secondary thing. But where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And the thing that what are you living for? What moves you in life? And sometimes for some people, for guys our age, it takes a while to sometimes know that. I thought in my 20s I knew what I wanted. All I can say, I know it's going to depress probably most of you here because you're in your 20s. But thank God I didn't get in my 20s what I wanted to get in my 20s. Oh, but I know. Chris, you don't understand. The Lord's told me. Yeah, he told me too. And he waited till I was 40 for some of those things, because if I'd gotten it at 25, it would have killed me. Well, that's depressing. Well, as a pastor, let me just say, deal with it. No. Ah, yes. So kind. All right. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Just because I want the Holy Spirit to remind you during the time we're here, I'm just going to put that up there. I'm just going to leave that there. I have a number of different kind of ways I wanted to go this morning, and what's the title for this morning's? The Theology of Worship. And because of that, when you talk about the theology of worship, it's like, oh, wow, this is going to be theological, which should be when you talk about theology. Here's the thing. Theo and ology, it's just the knowledge of God. And so we can get all wrapped up with, will this be of my head? I guarantee you, if it's not above my head, it won't be above yours. So we'll all be there together. Turn to Psalm 2. Now, who would you say in the universe has the greatest theology on worship? David would be a great answer. If there was another one, let's just say that, let's just say that there was one other one that happened to be three kind of in one. Anybody want to give another shot of who in the entire universe would have the greatest theology of worship? Though David is close. Stop looking at my shirt. I like that. His shirt says, "Stop looking at my shirt." Wouldn't you want to go to the source of, if your favorite whatever? I love that car. Well, I know the guy that actually designs and manufactures that car. Really? Oh, yeah, he's my friend. Would you like to meet him? Absolutely. These clothes, I love them. Well, the designer lives right next door to me. You're kidding. Oh, no, come on. He gives away clothes all the time. Let's go. What about worship? Oh, so-and-so has done worship for 112 years in this church. Some of us feel like that. Let's go talk to him. And I think it's great. So we're having a worship school. We're getting all sorts of input. But I would think that if I really wanted to know, okay, how does worship in the heart of God, how does he see it? I'd want to go to him. What does he desire and look for in us as we worship? Again, I'm not talking about this little thing here. Okay, Ian's up here this morning playing away, okay? And we're worshiping. Have a seat. And what's not said, have a seat, because worship is over, worship is done. You're not worshiping anymore until I tell you or I start another song. Worship, it's done. Are you still worshiping? Stop that. That little, what is that, a foot? 11 inches? That it's not the difference between when worship happens and worship doesn't happen. There are people right here, right now, that are worshiping. Can you worship when you sleep? So then help me. If you can worship when you sleep, and you are not even conscious, which actually, during many worship sessions, I've seen that and experienced that myself. Actually, I was leading worship in the House of Prayer in Kansas City, and we did 5 or 6 a week, and they're 2-hour sets. And I'm sitting there one time, and I'm exhausted, and I'm leading away, and we have these communication where we lean over in the mic, and I can talk to the whole team, but it didn't come back, so they couldn't talk to me because I could communicate something, but it wasn't a general form of communication. But I hear out of the corner of I hear my singers laughing, and it's like 3 or 4 gals, and they're laughing. I'm thinking, what are they laughing about? We're in the middle of this worship set here, and so I lift my head, and as I lift my head, I realize my head was there. What they were laughing about is that as the worship leader during the time, and then it went off on the singers singing prophetically, and then they went back and forth, with the prayer leader and the singers and the prayer leader. And during this time, everybody up on stage in their monitors heard. I fell asleep leading worship. So, you can worship while sleeping. I've experienced it. If that's the case, then let me ask you a question. Define worship. Help me help you. What's worship? A lifestyle? Casting your affections on him. Deep crying to deep. Spending time with him. What was yours? Loving him. Surrender. What was that? Honor. Singing, dancing. Giving thanks. Responding. Obedience. Good. I like that one. Just being with it. Can I tell you something? They're all right. You know why? It's because no one has... I've got 3 daughters. I love them all, but I respond to them differently. My oldest one is a special needs gal. She lives with us and probably will forever. My middle one is this brilliant, analytical, very quick, very funny. My youngest one is a dancer and just is a worshiper. And I, as a father, love them equally, but I, as a father, I could have the same thing I need to tell them, but I might have to do it in 3 different ways. Therefore, when I say, what is worship? If somebody gives you a 1-sentence definition and that's worship and that's it, final, boom. Take it and receive the part that it is, but realize that the uniqueness of worship is a relationship. It's not responding to a statement. If worship for you is the response to a statement, you've missed out on how to live your life. You have a unique form of communication with God, and he has a unique form with you. Does God ever speak to anybody in their dreams? Raise your hand. Does God not speak to you in your dream? Raise your hand. It's okay if he doesn't. Oh, really? Nobody. Usually there's a good chunk of people. Okay, has God ever spoken audibly to you and you've heard his voice audibly? Raise your hand. No, audibly, you're awake and you hear his voice. Raise your hand up high. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, about a dozen of you. All right? Who has God not spoken to audibly? I just want to see your hands. Whoa. It's amazing why he loves them more than he loves you. No. They needed to hear it a little louder. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I had this thing that happened when I had this dream, and all this happened. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. I said, just wait a minute. God had to knock you out to tell you that. You know, nothing makes us any better. God, he's so great, and he's unique, and he has a way of speaking to you, and he wants to say the exact same thing, but he wants to say it over here to Jimmy. He goes, well, I can't say it to Jimmy like I just said it to him, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to speak this way to him. And so what happens is, please watch this next thing. What happens is, over time, he develops an understanding of who God is for him, and then the affection goes back and forth. His worship relationship is going to be different than his worship relationship. And somehow we want to come along and put this standardized thing of this is what worship is, and Sunday morning it's either 30, 45 minutes, or if you're in a good church, it goes an hour. Really? Well, when I get up in the morning, I get up this morning and it's like, I don't feel like dancing. Some people get up out of bed. I lived with a guy years ago before I was married. He would get up and start singing as loud as he could. And there were 4 guys in the room. And he would just sing and sing. And sometimes he would get really early because he wanted to seek the Lord. And he just thought it was a very, very spiritual thing for him to do that. Often he would come by when you would be lying in bed, and he would sit on the bed like this and sing over you before he brushed his teeth. It was ugly on a lot of levels. And he didn't have a good voice. But he was a leader in the church, and we were the new guys coming in, so it was his form of discipleship was I want to create people after my own kind, because this is what worship looks like. So we all tried to make worship look like that. Morning times are kind of my valley of the day. Now, I meet him in the valley, but I got to walk up, a little higher. I just can't do, his name was Gary, I can't do life like Gary did life. So let's get off this, what do they call those things? Where you're walking, treadmill. Let's get off this treadmill of trying to duplicate a lifestyle with God because someone else has the same thing. I think it's great. Paul says, become an example, do what I do, but it's do what I do for a while so you get some habit and idea, but then you've got to become your own person. I've got 3 children. I don't want them to be exactly like me. I want them to be the most gracious, loving people that God has created them to be, but not to be who I am. So Psalm 2. If I'm looking for what does God say on worship? Well, Psalm 2 is kind of unusual because it's the kings, the nations are raging against God. And they're going to, they think they're going to break heaven down and overtake heaven. Foolish. And then it says, verse 3, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. And he who sits in the heavens shall laugh, and the Lord shall hold them in derision, and he'll speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. I would not want to be on the other side of that. Of being distressed by God in his deep displeasure. But here's the funny thing. Years ago, a preacher was sharing this particular passage of Scripture. And he went on about God laughing in heaven. And he used this cackle. And I won't do what he did because he just went really loud. And I also sang, so what he did would hurt my voice. But he just did that, and he gave this image. I was newly saved, and he gave this image of me, of God like the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. And I just had this image that God couldn't wait to snuff me out. The mighty hand of God? Well, on the mighty hand of God is the mighty thumb of God that just waits for you. Okay, Chris is doing good. He's doing good. Ooh, don't go. Chris, Come on, repent. Say you're sorry. All right, I forgive you. Go ahead. And this is kind of how we see, and this is what we feel like in our life. Like, okay. Did I pray that right? Yes, I'm alive. Okay. Like what a way to live. Do you think a good father wants his children to live like that? What's dad thinking? What's dad thinking? What's that thinking? What's that thinking? Now, I want my children to have in them, I wonder what my dad would do. That's a good thing. But to have my face plastered in front of them in this imaginary face that follows them, are you doing it right? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it right? That's not a good father. Any parent that puts their face, mother or father, puts the face of, and all they can see is the anger and the disappointment of that parent. Something's missing. And our father doesn't want to do that. And so I left there going, I don't know if this is how I want to see God. Well, here's what happens. I'll just be honest. I've been a pastor and a preacher for 30 years and been a worship leader for 39 years. Started leading worship in 1973 when I was 2. And because I'm 41 right now. Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Liars crowd. No, sorry. and that image left me with a very bad image of who God was. And then I realized when I became a pastor the influence of words. And sometimes preachers go overboard to make a point. Preachers, if you're here and that's your desire, never go overboard trying to make a point about the nature of God. Do not discredit the nature of God to make a point because you're inadequate to study to find out the right way to say it. Don't let your laziness or your inadequacy or your misperception of the nature of God discredit his nature when you give it out. Dangerous thing to do. And that guy, that preacher, that teacher years ago left a whole bunch of us college kids thinking that God couldn't wait so that we could be at the end of his great displeasure. You don't want to know what the word really means? I don't have my keys, but I have a room key. Okay, let's say that this room key is actually my car key. And let's say my car is a Ford F-350. Not even the 150, not the 250, the 350. The monster that sits out there. So my 1.5-year-old knows that when we go somewhere, I pick up this thing that rattles. And I take it to the car, and I put them in the car seat, and they see me do something with this, and then it goes away from their sight, and then suddenly the car starts. That's all they know in their little brain. Maybe they're 2. And they just. So I am sitting on the front porch talking on the phone, and they've gotten the keys off the counter. And my little 2-year-old is now walking towards the F-350 with 12 keys. Okay? Now, what are you going to do if you're a hyper parent? No, stop! No, think about it for a minute. Number one, are they going to get the right key? No. Well, let's go back. Let's make that number 2. Number 1, could they even get in the vehicle? No. My wife has a hard time getting into one of those things. She's 5'2". This kid's... And so what are you going to do probably? You're going to chuckle. You're going to laugh. That is the connotation of that term in Hebrew. It means to laugh and hold them in derision means laugh because of the fruitfulness of what they're doing. It's silly. It can't happen. And so God, he begins to laugh, not because he's evil and a wicked witch, but he laughs because you're trying to overthrow heaven. It won't happen. Ha 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 ha. Go for it, guys. You know, it's just that you just know. And he lets out this laugh. And yes, there's distress, but the laugh is not some wicked kind of a thing. Because here's what happens. Why would you spend so much time on this, Chris? I'll tell you why. Because the little things that people say about God instantly put in your mind what the nature of God is like. Let me give you another one. Have you ever heard this expression? Well, God took me to the woodshed. Okay? Preachers love to say that. God took me to the woodshed. Do you know what it means to go to the woodshed? What happens in the woodshed? Yeah, you get beaten in a woodshed. So what the expression really means, what they're trying to say is, well, I went through a time of the discipline of the Lord. But when you say God took me to the woodshed, in a human being, what does that put into their mind? You're naughty and God likes to take you out and hit you and abuse you. So in other words, you're discrediting the real nature of God. How about another one? Oh, the Lord it was like he put a 2x4 on my head. Really? Well, let's try that. Here, you kneel down. Give me a 2x4. Okay, ready? Okay, now this is what you said God did to you, right? Boom! Well, it wasn't quite like that. You know, and so we throw out little things about what God is like. And at the end of our lives, we can figure, why do I think he doesn't like me much? Why? Because you spent your entire life hearing and believing things that aren't true. Have you ever had someone lie about you? How'd that make you feel? Did you, oh yeah, they said I did this, they said I did that. And did you? No, but they're telling everybody. Oh, that doesn't bother me. Really? I bet it does. I bet it would. And I don't know about you. I want to convey in my life what I say, how I live. I want to convey who he is. I don't want to miss it. So my theology of worship, if we're talking about theology, I want to know then, how do you want to be treated? How do you want to be loved? How do you want me to express affection towards you? And I'm going, well, Chris, you're in Psalm 2, and their nations are raging against God. This is not a good worship set here. You know, you've got your song list. This isn't a good one. Well, actually, you keep going on. And the promise of who is to come, the Lord said to me, you are my son. Today I've begotten you. Ask of me, and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. So in other words, there's this promise of this one to come that's going to redeem all things. How is he going to redeem it? right down here in verse 10, 11, 12. The whole thing up here is the knowledge of. It's knowing. When you know how you're loved, you respond in that. When your knower gets bigger, your love gets bigger. That's just how it works. So revelation and knowledge, and now God's trying to say, okay, I'm going to give you revelation and knowledge, and please listen carefully. This is going to be a terrible picture, but I'm just not is anybody a really good drawer? Come on. I just want someone to come up here and draw a three-legged stool. I can do it and have it look like this. Okay. See, here we go. There. Can't believe you erased it. No. See, look at that. Now it's three-dimensional. Thank you. So, has anybody ever sat on a three-legged stool? Pretty sturdy, isn't it? And you know what? Nope. Somebody said, nope. That was a bad three-legged stool. A four-legged stool leaves you with very squared, so you can tip. Three-legged stool, actually, if it's low to the ground, it's actually a very, thank you, Jimmy, sturdy. So, in verses 10 to 12, he says this. Now, who's he talking to? Therefore, be wise, O kings, be instructed, you judges. Who do you think kings and judges are on the earth? The leaders of the earth. Hey, it wasn't a trick question. They're the kings. They're the leaders. They're the ones that make all the judgment. They are the absolute top. What he's trying to do is that God's trying to say, now, listen, okay, you're trying to do all these things. Listen, stop. And he says, be wise and be instructed. When Jesus in the New Testament said, verily I say unto you, but a couple times he said, verily, verily I say unto you. When he says verily, verily, what's he mean? Pay real good attention. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. Don't forget it. Write it down, and then make a Bible, and then carry it around with you until you have a cell phone, and then put it in there. But read it more than just when you open it up during a service. Okay. By the way, I just want to encourage you, have a Bible that has pages in it. Because you know what? When you come to something and it means something to you, or you're listening to a message, very few people actually take a pen and write on their cell phone on that area of the Bible. Oh, Chris, I have a section over here where I can take notes. Can I see it? No. So I'm not trying to guilt you into anything. I'm just trying to say, when you have something with real words, you write things and you open back and you go, oh, wow, I remember that, I remember this. But it doesn't I'll just tell you the honest, it doesn't happen if all you ever look at is a cell phone to read your Bible. Okay, it's okay to read during a time, but I just want to encourage you, you'll never really, not many people, there's a very small percentage that actually use a cell phone in a way that you have memory attached to the Word of God. Was that okay? Okay. Even if you said no, I'm still comfortable with how I feel about it. So he says, okay, now be instructed. He says these three things. Okay? Number one, serve the Lord with fear. Oh, there he goes again. But you just said that. No, the word fear there is the word, when we want to go into Hebrew, that means awe. What's the next one he says? Rejoice. But it says rejoice with what? Trembling. Oh, Chris, here we go again. I'm going to tremble. I'll get to that one in a second. And then that was the third one. Third one's going to scare you too. What's the third one say? Kiss the Son, lest he be angry. So now, if I don't kiss God, he's going to get mad. You're really not doing well, Chris. Okay. Fear does not mean torment. All you have to do is go back to 1 John 4, where it says, fear does, the love of God, there's no torment, there's no fear in love. So if you think serve the Lord with fear, it's not the fear of falling on your face because you're afraid of him. You fall on your face because he's awesome. We don't have enough songs of awe. We have a lot of, but we don't have that many that make an entire congregation fall on their face. Can you think? Let's do that. How many songs of awe that make you want to fall on your face do we sing? And how many are out there that you remember? Go. Face down. One. There's an older one back in the 80s. I stand in awe of you. God of all creation. What was that? Okay, whatever he said. We fall down. In other words, are we having an easy time coming up with a lot of songs? No, because there's not a lot that are out there. Any songwriters here? We're going to talk about songwriting later in the afternoon. Write songs of awe. Write songs that make people want to fall on their face. So here we have awe, and then it says rejoice with trembling. Well, Chris, what does he mean by trembling? I'll tell you what it means. How many football fans, not soccer, I actually used to play that one. I was a professional at one time, got actually paid for kicking soccer balls. But American football, when I say football, I say American football. How many are, anybody here a fan of American football? Both of you, okay. Then let's go to, what would be the sport? Soccer, hockey, which one? Soccer. Okay. Okay, soccer. Okay, here you go. We're going to go with soccer. Okay, we're going to go with football. All right. You're down. It's tie. It's at the very end of overtime. And you know in a minute you're going to go to a shootout. And you're going to but 3 of your best guys got hurt during the game. So Mickey's going to have to be on the team to do one of the penalty kicks. We don't want Mickey to do it, so we want to win. It's down to now 5. Let me say it's down to 11 seconds. The ball's at midfield. It's coming your way. There's just no way anything's going to happen. You're up in the stands going, oh no, we're going to go shit. This is going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. And suddenly, the guy kicks the ball, and it goes off the side of his foot. It hits the halfback over here. It drops in front of him. The goalie had come way out. And the guy looks. He looks up at the clock. There's 7 seconds.